Gitte, welcome
Yeah.
to Raw and Cooked Vegan.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure, pleasure. And if you could, Gitte, tell us a little bit about your childhood. How did your parents raise you? Did they know anything about nutrition? Did they think about food at all, or was it kind of just like a standard Danish diet? How did that go?
Yeah, I would categorize it as the standard Danish diet. I mean, my mom, she worked a lot, and so I got a lot of cornflakes with milk and just oatmeal, lots of oatmeal. My mom, she actually says that the reason I'm so tall is because she fed me all that oatmeal. So, but we had meat, we had ice cream, the works,
Yeah. And
everything.
and is it true in Denmark there's quite a bit of dairy products in the diet, yeah?
Definitely. I think that we are the country in the world that consumes the most dairy and the most meat per
Okay.
citizen.
Yeah.
And we have, I think, the largest amount of people with the osteoporosis, which is
Yeah.
quite interesting when you consider all the dairy that
Right.
the experts say will protect us from osteoporosis.
Very
So, yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Are the Danish any better in terms of animal ethics than Americans?
No, it's so interesting because we have a zoo in Copenhagen and they had a giraffe slaughtered there because they didn't have enough room for all the animals. So they invited people in there so they can see how it went. And all the Danish population, they were, I mean, it was on CNN. People were outraged,
This
which
was okay.
should
This
be.
this was the killing of a giraffe.
Exactly.
Okay.
So so I thought that it was such a double standard because people were just so outraged because of that killing of the giraffe Marius. Maybe people have even heard about it on the news because it went worldwide.
Huh.
But then again, I mean, we kill so many pigs and cows, and a pig is as intelligent as a dog. So there is such a disconnect.
Yeah.
It's just even hard to believe. But I don't blame anybody because I used to eat animals because I didn't know any better.
Right.
And I might be naive, but I really choose to have the belief that when people know better, they do better.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
choose. So, I'm very much into this. I go to YouTube, I read the books. So when you just don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
So I
Right.
guess it's just people get
Okay.
fed on it.
All right, we're gonna talk more about that, but I'm gonna continue on with your chronology here. So your mom brought you up with a lot of oatmeal, lots of dairy products, meat,
Yes, yes.
and how would you characterize your health as a child?
I have always been very active. So I think I have always been very, very healthy, quote unquote healthy. I know that I would probably have been even healthier if I had had a vegan diet, of course.
Right.
But I've always been taking dance lessons. Danish people, we ride our bikes everywhere.
That's good.
So I just never sat still. When I went to the university, I made money by teaching aerobics. So even though my diet wasn't perfect, I've always been very active. And, my parents, they didn't buy unhealthy food for us. I mean, now I know better, but they did what they thought was healthy. They thought that it was, but we always had the rule like for each meatball, you had to have three potatoes. So, we just couldn't sit there and have all meat all the time.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a good point because if you're eating a lot of potatoes, you're not going to want that much meat.
Yeah, and also it was cheaper.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot to do with price.
Yeah. 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 Okay. All right. And let's see now. So if your health was pretty good, you were fairly athletic. What was it that occurred that got you to start thinking about diet? What made you think of maybe changing your diet a little bit?
Paul, I really believe that everything we do is motivated by the need to gain pleasure and avoid pain. And a lot of times I experience as a coach and in my own life that the pain has to be very big before we're really ready to change our lives. And the pain was so big for me, and that's why I changed my life, because I have been suffering from severe migraines since puberty.
Okay.
And when I gave birth to my daughter in 2006, it became a lot worse. That's not because my daughter is a difficult child. She's the most beautiful girl in the world. It's just that something happened hormonally that really triggered the migraine even worse.
Yeah.
And started to take a lot of medicine, just over the counter headache pills, just to get by, being a working mom. And I
Okay,
got
now let me
rebound.
ask you let me ask you, Gitte, this started when you were 13?
Yeah, the migraine started when I went into puberty, about 13.
Okay. Were you
Yeah.
were you drinking like coffee and tea as a teenager?
Never,
No.
never. And I don't drink. I drink a
Wow.
little tea in the winter time now, but mostly without any
Wow.
caffeine. I've never been drinking coffee, so that was not it.
And can you describe for people who might not know how debilitating these things are? You get one of these migraines, and it kind of, I mean, you have to the only thing you can do is like lie on your bed, right? I mean, what do you do?
It is really, really horrible. You feel like somebody is like stabbing a knife through your head.
Yeah.
But it's not only the pain. So it's also a little bit different from just a headache. You feel like it's just kind of hard to explain, but it feels like everything hurts. Like you're coming down with the flu or something. And while that, you just have this pain and you just want to be in a dark, cold, quiet room
Huh.
and make everybody disappear.
It
That's
can
basically, yeah.
it can make you sick too, can't you? Sometimes do you throw up because there's so much pain?
Yeah, I usually don't throw up, but a lot of migraineurs, they throw up and they
Yeah.
get, you have migraines with aura and migraines without aura. And migraines with aura, you can get like blind spots and a lot of throw ups, and you're very, very sick. Um, I have had very few migraines with blind spots and auras. So mine are luckily just regular migraines.
Okay.
But they are very debilitating, very much so.
Okay. And so these kind of they started in your teens and then progressively got worse. And
Yeah,
would you say they reached a climax with your daughter's birth?
definitely. After I gave birth, and I also think it was stress. I don't think it's just the hormones. People, they love to say, oh, it's just the hormones, but the hormones are connected to your stress levels, to your diet. So you can't just say, oh, it's just my hormones.
Yeah. That's a
So
great point.
yeah, I wanted to be a full-time mom, and I'm a public speaker, and I'm independent. So if I don't work, I don't get paid. So I was working while I was having a little baby, having her with me. I was writing articles for women's magazines. I was still coaching. So I was definitely not energy managing my life good enough. So
Okay.
I was just the kind of girl, Paul, that said, shut up, body. I don't have time to listen to you. I'll pop some pills and I'll push the speeder and go ahead, because I've always felt like I was this human doing and not a human being. I felt like if I wasn't performing all the time, who was I?
Right.
What was my identity? So it was definitely some insecurity
Yeah.
underneath that.
Can you tell me, before I get into the actual change of diet, at this time you've been coaching fitness? Fitness, is that?
I actually started out as a personal trainer,
Yep.
and I've always known. I've been studying communications at the university, and I've always known that I was going to be a speaker somehow. I was going to be on stage and speak for people. I didn't know if you could make a living out of that, so I started as a personal trainer, and then I started to do lectures for all these diet classes.
Okay.
And then I was hired in a consultant company here in Denmark, and it was kind of a Danish Tony Robbins company, like
Okay.
motivational speaking. And
Yeah.
so we went out to companies and did motivational speaking. And my area within that company was health. So that was my cornerstone. So I
Okay.
talked a lot about diet and just a positive outlook and motivation, energy management.
And can I ask you, at that point, had your perception of diet changed significantly from what you had grown up with?
You know, Paul, I really didn't think that it was that different. You know, I went into the whole paleo thing, like everything had to be low carb. I think I mostly thought about diet in terms of weight loss. Like, how could I keep myself thin? So it was, I've never been anorexic or anything like that, but you know, I very much looked into carbs. I stayed away from too much fruit and pasta and rice and potatoes, and ate a lot of meat and vegetables, which was the good thing, was the vegetables, of course, but the meat not so much. And had a lot of like Greek yogurt with berries. And
Yep.
so I have never eaten a lot of fast food and crap like that. No.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Okay. So then, but even though you had been studying health and perhaps refining your approach slightly from childhood, you reached a point where these migraines were still getting worse, and and I think you told me you were starting to have several migraines a day, or at least one a day that would last several hours.
You know, Paul, it was so bad for so many years because what happened was I popped all these headache pills and I got into rebound headaches, which means that the headache pill will help, but then it'll come back the pain even worse. And yeah, I can actually compare it with drinking coffee. If you
Yeah.
drink caffeine every day and you all of a sudden you don't get caffeine, you'll feel sick until you get your caffeine again.
Right.
So, you know, I got this over the counter headache pills, and then I got something called triptans, which is a migraine specific medicine that helps me a lot. I mean, that'll like take care of it. And there is not a, I don't think there's any pain relief in that medicine, but what it actually does is it makes your blood vessels your normal size again so you can function. And it helps a lot. I love the triptans in that regard, but
Yeah.
if you take them more than like 10 times or 15 times a month, you get rebound headaches again. So what happened to me was I found this medicine so I can still be working and function and be a mom and be, you know, a career woman.
Right.
And then I got into rebound headaches. So I would say that for about almost 6 years, I had a migraine every day.
God.
Until I took my medicine. If I didn't take the triptan, I would be having such a severe migraine that I couldn't function for 3 days. So I had the choice, like, okay, you can take a triptan and be okay within 2 hours, or you cannot take the triptan and be very sick for like 70 something hours. So I
Jeez.
actually, yeah, so I took a cold turkey, like I think it was 2 years ago. I took a cold turkey and I went 8 weeks with no medicine just to get it out of my system. And also so the doctors could see how much is the rebound headache and how much is the real migraine. So you can
And
actually,
what happened during those 8 weeks? Did you keep having migraines like every day?
it was so horrible. I can't even describe it. I mean, it really, I always laugh when people, I don't laugh about it, but I'm thinking when people, they go to these retreats to learn how to meditate and learn how to be the observer of the pain body, I'm like saying, just try to have migraines for 8 weeks. You don't have to go to any ashram or anything. I learned a lot about that I am not my body. I am the observer of my body. I learned a lot about dealing with discomfort and actually being comfortable at the same time. This sounds kind of weird and out there, but what it taught me was that my life is not gonna start once I fix my migraines, because what if I never fix them? So my job is doing the absolute best I can right now to love myself and accept myself with or without the migraines, because a lot what I learned in those 8 weeks was that the mental and the psychological part of it was that I didn't accept it. I hated that part of myself because I like to be the active girl who's motivating people. I don't like to be the ones who's like, oh, you know, my husband, I need to go to bed now, and I'm sick. I didn't own that part of myself.
Uh-huh.
So I was kind of in a war with the migraine person. I thought it was weak, very weak.
Yeah.
So what I've learned in those 8 weeks has a lot to do with self-acceptance, and also, and going back to your question, Paul, about the diet and how I started that. I've also learned that you can change your diet, and it might not necessarily fix everything. I love this diet. I would never go back to the SAD diet.
Yep.
But I'm in the process. And as Dan McDonald, the life regenerator, always says, I'm in it to win it. I love that sentence. I think a lot about that because this is a process. I'm never going to stop. I'm going to do the very best that I can to be as robust as I can. And I might have to deal with having this migraine brain.
All right.
I don't
now,
know.
Okay. I like the kind of surrender involved in that, and yet retaining the willingness to continue to strive for your goal. Having said that, it seems that having made these changes, you have experienced some benefits. So let's describe, first of all, what drew your attention to this approach to life, and then talk a little bit about implementing it.
Okay. So what happened was I saw the film Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead with Joe Cross, which I would just recommend everybody to watch if they haven't seen that. And it really got my attention because there was a girl in there who had migraines, and she went on this juice fast, and her migraines, they either disappeared or actually lessened. So of course I tried that, and then I just researched like crazy. I was like, what is this with this plant-based diet? You know, Joe Cross said that 70% of all disease was because of diet and animal products. So I really started to research, and I stumbled upon a YouTube video because I just put in migraines and diet, and then a woman named Alicia Grant, and she has a channel called Raw Synergy TV.
Yeah.
She popped up, and she talked about having had a lot of migraines and actually cured herself by this low-fat vegan diet. Now, she said that she had low fat. I was like, low fat? What is she talking about? You know, because all I learned all the time through the media here in Denmark was you need a lot of fat. Like the high fat diet is so popular here. So
that's like Atkins or variations on paleo, and then emphasizing like these cold water fish, omega-3s and all. Yeah.
Bingo, exactly. And I put flaxseed oil in my smoothies, and avocados all the time, and just poured fat on everything. So and my skin was of course horrible, which I didn't make the connection. So I watched this video by Alicia, and I was like, this is very weird, but she looks so healthy. And I thought, maybe there's something to this. I've tried all the other stuff. I have just spent thousands of dollars on supplementations and all that crap. Excuse my language. So what I did was I called her up, and I did an interview with her. I have a podcast show called This Talk Show. Since put the link under.
Since you're bringing that up, go ahead and tell the viewers the name of your podcast show and your Facebook page and any website.
Oh, you're so sweet. And my it's most in Danish, but I also have some English interviews on my podcast. My podcast is Gitte Koldtoft Show. We can put the link maybe underneath. I'll send it to you. But it's in iTunes, and I have interviews with Jurian Ryder and Alicia Grant and Chris Randall and Dan McDonald, all these amazing people.
Great.
That's very interesting. And I also have a YouTube channel called Daily Energizer, and I'm going to start posting conversations like I'm having with you right now.
Great.
I'm going to start doing that and sharing more. But I share a lot about the vegan message in my Facebook, which In Danish, it's called kærlighed og kulhydrater, which means love and carbs. So I share something every day there, and and my website is called energigitte.dk. So energi in Danish, it's energy, and my name is Gitte, so that's why I'm called Gitte.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
So, but when I came from, so I talked to Alicia Grant. And you can hear the first interview because I have 2 interviews with her. It's kind of a before and after. It's so funny to listen to because the first interview I did with this sweet woman, I was so skeptical. I was like, what are you talking about? You know, why do you eat 10 bananas in one smoothie? Are you crazy? I mean, I was just like, I've never heard about such an insane diet before. So it's funny to listen to the first thing, and then I interviewed her like half a year after that. And of course, now I'm just the biggest cheerleader this diet. So that actually was my gateway into the whole high carb, low fat community. And I started reading McDougall and the China study and the World Peace Diet. I mean, I read everything Neil Barnard, I love his work. I read everything that I can get my hands on to see if it would make sense on a scientist level as well. Yeah.
All right. Now, as you started assimilating all this knowledge, how did that manifest in terms of changing your diet?
This is so interesting, Paul, because a lot of people ask me, when did you decide to go vegan? Now, I didn't decide to go vegan. I didn't make a decision. I swear to God, the decision made me. I just noticed the more information I got, my habits, they just changed automatically. I just noticed that in the beginning, I would just not eat meat. And then I would not eat dairy. It was like, you could not make me eat meat. It would be like asking me to eat a golden retriever. I mean, it's just like, yuck. Why would I just eat flesh, like dead flesh? That is just the weirdest thing. So no way. And it has no fiber. It has no water content. I mean, how does that make the body good? I don't get it. And also when I understood the whole protein myth. So, and then I think I still bought a little bit of sushi once in a while because I had a habit where every time I went to do a speaking engagement, I would buy sushi on the way and eat that in the car.
Okay.
I would even eat it with the sticks in my car while driving. I was a professional sushi eater. But then I just
so you have a cell phone. You have a cell phone on one hand, sushi, and you're driving. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't drive and speak on the phone. No, I don't do that. But I just noticed I didn't buy any sushi anymore. So it just changed automatically, and I have never enjoyed cooking. So for me, this lifestyle is just awesome because
you're not the first person I've heard say that.
I mean, I am just a smoothie queen. I love smoothie. I'm doing a 30-day smoothie blog right now. So I'm blogging with a new recipe for 30 days for all my followers every day. So that is awesome. And I just love my Vitamix blender. And as long as I have that, and I still do some cooked food. I love potatoes. I love sweet potatoes. I love pumpkin. But what I have found out, Paul, was that because I really wanted to go raw, because I believe that like raw is the top of the pyramid. It's the most clean diet. And living in Denmark, it's very cold most of the year. So I have really struggled with that. But instead of being so hard on myself and forcing me to go raw, I've actually looked more into, okay, can we just say that all cooked food is the same? No, we can't. So what I have moved away from is saying, I can still have cooked food being very, very healthy, but what I'm doing now is avoiding grains. So I do believe that like potatoes, zucchini, like if I make a soup, I can get tons of vegetables in eating my warm soup. because
Yeah.
I get the zucchini, the pumpkin, the potatoes, the sweet potatoes, the carrots, the I don't know all the words in English, but a lot of vegetables in there.
Yeah,
Like
and
really good.
I love that you're saying this, Gitte. And can you tell our viewers what are some temperatures that you get in Denmark in the middle of the winter? How cold does it get? Uh,
We have degrees here, so we don't have Fahrenheit, but it's below zero.
yeah, below
It's very, very,
zero
it's
Celsius.
very cold. It's very
Yeah,
cold, and it gets dark like 4 o'clock. Like in the summer, it's light almost 24 hours a day,
yeah.
but in the winter it gets dark like at 4. So it's very, you need something to comfort yourself. Now I know a lot of people, they get by eating raw and they say, oh, we just have some ginger tea and everything is fine. And for some people that really works. But what I have also noticed, Paul, when I have been going 100% raw, I actually eat too many calories and I gain
Okay.
weight
Aha.
because, yeah, because it's like I can't satisfy this. It's
All right.
like if I just have some potatoes, I'm happy. But like I get sick of 10 banana smoothies morning, dinner, and noon. You
All
know,
right.
it's just
Yeah, there's a lot here, Gitte. There's a lot here.
yeah.
So can you briefly kind of give us a little more detail on that? You said that if you eat too many calories on raw, you've actually experienced weight gain, and you're a person that exercises regularly.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
and what kind of weight gain did you see, and how long would it take?
I'm not a lot of weight gain because I've never been like, I have been obese. I would say 91 when I lived in America for a year. I definitely gained a ton of weight, but I'm like, I'm 180 centimeter and I'm like 70 kilos. So I'm not thin. I'm not like Freely and these girls. I'm not that thin, but I'm not fat either.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
have curves, um, but I would say I would gain maybe 7 6 7 pounds.
Okay.
Something like
And do you have any idea the amount of calories that took, or was it just you just felt
I
like you
never
were?
I never count calories, but
Yeah.
I can't blame it on the fruit if I really think carefully. Because what happens, Paul, was when I've had periods in my life where I've had a lot of migraines, what happens is I wake up maybe in the middle of the night with severe pain, and I actually kind of use food to go to sleep. So I
Oh,
could wake up and have lots to eat in the middle of the night. And of course, like if I make oatmeal in the middle of the night, or if I make, you know,
okay.
yeah. So
Uh,
if I make oatmeal every night, I'll gain weight. So
Okay.
maybe we have more than 3,000 calories or something. I don't know. I never calculated it.
So it was cooked. So it was cooked food that was adding weight, and not necessarily raw food.
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say.
Okay.
I don't
But
know. Yeah, I
nevertheless,
think that a calorie. I mean, I don't believe that just because a calorie is from a fruit that it will magically disappear. I do believe that it's hard to overeat on fruit just because of all the water content. Uh, but I'm not an expert on that. My focus is actually not so much the weight anymore. I just
yeah.
want to feel good.
Okay.
I don't really care
All
about
right.
weight.
Let me shift gears and go back a little bit. So it's interesting, this progression you're making. So at first you saw these unhealthy foods fall away. So we saw meat fall away, dairy fall away, and now grains have kind of fallen away. So can you characterize what has happened with your own health as you've dropped these various items out of the diet?
The interesting thing is that besides the migraine, I've always had a super health. Like I
Yeah,
would be the person who never gets the flu or a cold,
right.
anything like that. I had a very robust health. But what happened was I dropped a little bit of weight when I went vegan, and my skin cleared up. I had a lot of adult acne. And I will now maybe get a pimple once every third month or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, I mean, I would always have to like cover up with makeup, and I don't have to do that anymore. So that has been a huge change, which actually tells me a lot, because the skin is where all um,
The toxins are eliminated.
thank you for that word. The toxins, they eliminate through the skin a lot.
Right.
So that was very interesting to watch.
Can I ask you, if you don't mind, have you noticed any benefits in terms of ovulation and menstruation? Did you notice any lessening of negative symptoms?
You know, not really, because the only symptom that I have is still when I have my period is the migraine.
Okay.
So, but I do believe from all the things that I've been watching on YouTube, I can
Yeah.
actually hear from all the women that the women who have both been raw and raw till 4, what they very often tell is that the difference is that their period is even lighter on 100% raw. Like
Yeah.
they barely notice it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you incorporate some cooked food, you might get some cramps and headaches and all that. But I'm trying right now to see if I do 100% raw and then a little bit of potatoes and cooked vegetables at night. That's where I'm going now, and getting rid of the rice, because I had a lot of rice and a lot of oatmeal. So I'm getting rid of that, and so maybe we can talk again in 3 months, and I can tell you if it has gotten better. Because
Okay.
I do believe that's the next level up for me. I'm not ready to go 100% raw, but
Right.
maybe
But
I will be.
you're getting as close as you can. Yeah,
I'm
you're
getting as close as I can.
and the cooked foods that you're continuing to eat are very simple. Very simple.
Very, very simple. That's
Yeah.
what, and I believe that's a slippery slope for a lot of people, because you talk about this backup plan a lot on 30 bananas a day. Now they talk about the backup plan, and it's great because it gets more people into the vegan community.
Yes.
So I love that. But the danger with the backup plan is that it becomes a front up plan. It's not a backup plan anymore if you all of a sudden have, oh yeah, I can eat cooked food, so I'll just go and have some bread. Like if you see on the ingredients on the bread, it's crap. So you can really, it's funny how the mind works, because you can really fool yourself into believing that you're still very healthy. But for me, it's a matter of simplicity is better. So if I can do even a more simple, I talked actually a lot with the Tim Van Orden about this, and he said that potatoes is okay. Steamed potatoes, there's a difference between steamed potatoes and like if you fry them up or make French fries out of them.
Sure.
So
And I'd like to say, I mean, let's bear in mind that you're still working on these migraines, and that's a strong incentive for you to get as clean as you possibly can.
definitely.
For a large percentage of society that is still animal based, a cooked vegan diet is going to be a much more accessible program for them.
For sure.
So I totally respect where you're going, where you're headed, and I agree with you. From everything I've heard from folks that are 100% raw, it seems to be kind of the epitome. However, I'm fully supportive of that, provided that emphasis does not prevent animal-based folks from going vegan.
Definitely.
You know, if there's an excessive strictness or rigidity in terms of speaking about raw, it can be off-putting for an animal eating public that needs to make that first step of just getting off animals.
I totally agree with you, Paul. And also, for me, it has to do with being gentle on myself. Now, I don't want to fool myself. I don't want to be so gentle I don't get any results.
Yeah.
But I don't. But the psychological component to the physical migraine, I believe, for me, is pressure. I have always been an overachiever, a perfectionist. I can push myself, and I don't want this diet thing to be a struggle. I want it to be self-love. I want it to be something that I really enjoy, the process, and intellectually, I do know that 100% raw is absolutely where I am going.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's going to take. And also, right now, I have noticed that where I actually use the cooked food is to ground myself. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? A lot of people will say that's a bad thing because you gotta heal it to feel it to heal it. You know, you have to like be there with your emotions. But if I have been out giving a public speaking engagement for like 100 people and I am on an adrenaline rush, getting home and having some steamed potatoes, I'm like, ah, you know, that's what meat used to do for me. Now I would never do that. But steamed potatoes can actually ground me now, where I feel calm.
You know,
In a
this
perfect world, I wouldn't need that because I would just be so zen about it that I wouldn't need the potatoes. But I'm not Jesus yet, okay? Maybe next week, but not this week.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think
there yet.
this is a really important point, Gitte, because when you say grounded, you can have a lot of folks saying, "Well, what does that mean, grounded?" I mean, how do we define that? Some of these principles, they're not easily definable, but they are real in the sense that we have experience. We experience a shift in psychology and a shift in the way we're experiencing the world and how sensitive we become. And this grounding has a real it has a real application. So, and maybe maybe it can be that folks on a fully raw diet feel fully grounded, but I can totally see somebody in a transitional phase needing something like a steamed potato to be grounded. So, yeah, totally. And I like the way you're listening to your body, and you're not trying to force 10 bananas when you want a steamed potato. So anyway, can you tell me about the actual practical effects in terms of migraines thus far? So you're not, excuse me, you're not having migraines as frequently as you used to have them. So how much have they gone down, and how did that process happen? Whereby did you one day you notice, hey, I didn't have a migraine today? How did that go?
Yeah, I would say definitely what happened was when I went through the 8 weeks medication detox, and they lessened some. So I went from having them actually every day to maybe like, if I really take care of myself and I don't stress too much and, I do everything, I have my diet pretty much under control. So that's not an issue anymore. But because I find it so easy, I would have still about 10 migraine days in a
Now,
month.
when you did that 8-week period for the doctors, were you vegan at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was. And Paul, I would love to not have to take any medication. I mean, I definitely can already hear a lot of people in the community say, "Oh, never take any medication. That's bad. That's going to poison your body." And I totally agree. Medication is not the best choice because you can't fix one problem by creating another one, which you will always do with medication. And when that is said, for me, if I did not have the triptans, I couldn't work, I couldn't function, I couldn't have my speaking engagement company because if I have 100 people waiting for me to give a speech in a company, I can't call in sick. There is no way if I still want to be in business. So for
Get to
me, it is a godsend.
I love that you're including that point. Get to compromise, and whatever you're doing, you are reducing the number of migraines you're having.
Definitely.
And does that affect the quantity of medication that you need to take?
Definitely. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
I believe that, you know what it is, Paul? The medicine actually works faster and better. I don't know if it has something to do with that it works like faster through the liver or something. I'm not an expert in that, but I have actually noticed that. And also, I have so much more energy on this diet, and so even though I haven't fixed or cured the migraine brain yet, and I don't know if I can ever do that, Some people, they claim that they have done that, but I still feel a lot better. I feel more aware. I feel like a better connection to spirit. So, so a lot of good things. But the funny thing, I just want to tell you this because this is quite interesting. I wrote a book about migraines, which is a published book here in Denmark. And I interviewed people who claimed that they had cured their migraines by changing their diet. None of them were vegan. It was paleo and all that. But when I asked them like hundreds of questions. And what I think is that the people who claim that they cured their migraines, they didn't have migraines. I do believe that they had digestive problems, which made them have a lot of headaches. But there is a difference. It's like telling people you can cure your depression by carving up. No, you can't cure your migraine by drinking more water. I mean, it's just you are born with this. It's like if you are born with half a leg, you can't cure your leg.
Okay, get to. This is a huge point you're on here, and I really like what you're saying. Now, yeah, it's a lot of us who don't have don't have various ailments. It's very easy for those of us who don't have ailments to make pronouncements and judgments about them without ever having had the experience.
Exactly.
And at the same time, there are numbers of people who erroneously think they have ailments that they don't have.
I believe so. That's what I found out when I did the book. Now, I don't want to disrespect anybody because I can't know what's going on within their body, but I can just, from my own judgment, say that I think that not every one of those people, they had real migraines. I don't believe that they did. I believe that they had a lot of headaches.
But at the same time, that doesn't mean that all migraines are fantasy. Some people really do have migraines.
And you know, Paul, I have this thing. I am open to everything and attached to nothing. So I am very open to if somebody says, you know, we'll put you on a water fast for 40 days and your migraines will disappear, I might be open to that. You know, I don't have a closed mind. I can't afford to have a closed mind. I don't know. The more that I study, the more I know that I don't know.
Right. So, and I want to say too, I think we can say that you've already had significant success in the sense that now you have 10 migraines a month, whereas before you had 30.
So much.
That's a strong improvement.
Huge. And I am still in it to win it. This is a process, so I'm going to keep on going. But there's more to this than just your diet. I'm actually right now reading a book by Peter Levine. It's called Freedom from Pain, where he addresses a lot about how trauma from your childhood can actually move into your energy body and block energy. So, you know, some of it is genes. I inherited this migraine brain from all the women from my dad's side of the family. They had the exact same thing as I do. So definitely it's in the genes, but that doesn't mean that, okay, it's in your genes, so now you are destined to have migraines every day.
Thank you.
Yeah. Doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that I'm more prone to that. But the psychological part of that was that we all have traumas. We have all gotten, Peter Levine, he explains it this way. I'll try to do this very fast, okay? He says that when an animal in nature is threatened, it will either run away or it will fight. So the fight or flight. So it has all this stress built up in the body, but it will get rid of it. If you drive on a road, it's dark, and a deer goes out in front of your car, it will freeze, like in the headlights, it'll freeze. Now, if you were to have a camera in the woods while you drive by or drive off, you would see the deer in the woods would shake. It will shake the stress out of the body. So first It freezes, and then it runs into the woods, and it'll shake the stress off the body. What Peter Levine says is that when you have a trauma in your life, big or small, we freeze as human beings. We get a shock reaction. We don't get rid of the stress. So that stress moves into your body. I have grown up, I have had the most wonderful childhood, and I have had a very difficult childhood. Okay? So my dad, he was a severe alcoholic, and my mom worked a lot. I have a wonderful mom, but she wasn't around all the time. So I was a lot home with my mom, with my very alcoholic dad and my younger brother. I very often had shock reactions in my body because I was afraid. Okay. So I was afraid that my dad was going to die. I was afraid that he was going to shame the family. It was embarrassing. All that stuff that comes with being a child of an alcoholic. Now, I'm not saying I had it any worse than any other people. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But I'm just saying that I can see when I study it how that has really gotten into the energy field. And it's so interesting because what I actually think is that my mind thinks that, okay, if I can't change you, I'm in trouble. Okay. And that comes from if my dad didn't do what I said, we would be in trouble. So I have nightmares where I will dream that I'm in a classroom where everybody is smoking. And I'll try to get them to stop smoking. But in the dream, the nightmare will not be that they're going to die from smoking. It's like this, Paul. If I can't get them to stop smoking, I'll be in danger. That's a limiting belief coming from back in the day, where if I couldn't change my dad, bad things would happen.
It's
classic. Huge pressure.
Yeah, codependency, classic.
That is a huge pressure. So I actually had to stop coaching for a while because I got too much into if I couldn't change people's diet, I felt like I was in danger. It's a totally ego thing.
Yeah.
So I had to really work through that. So the diet is a huge component, but this mental detox, the emotional detox, getting the flow back in the body. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing meditation where I'm like letting the flow be back in the body and getting rid of all these obstacles.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting about this, Gitte, is that all of these aspects of the body are interconnected. And so what frequently happens is someone gets the idea in their head, I'm going to lose this weight. I'm going to go do this diet and lose this weight and start exercising. And they start doing it, and the weight starts to come off, and then the emotional and psychological issues come up to the surface.
That's it.
And they can either deal with them psychologically and emotionally, or they'll get thrown back to the old pattern. So you can't. I love what you're saying. You can't separate these aspects of the physical organism. It's not just a physical body. It has these and hopefully, ideally, you will be able to address all these things together and keep moving forward. But a lot of times, I think what you're describing is what explains why people fail. They'll just address one aspect and they don't address the whole thing, and then it collapses. So it's a huge point.
It's very important, and it all has to do with self-love. I read a book by Anita Moorjani called "Dying to Be Me." That's a book I would really recommend, and she says something very right, I think. She said she had this near-death experience, and she says that what she found out was it all has to do with love. You can go on a diet, and if you eat broccoli out of fear of being sick, the energy behind that broccoli is not healthy. If you eat the broccoli because you enjoy this living nature food, that's rich in vitamins and all kinds of goodies, then it's good for you.
I
So
I like that point, but I'd like to qualify it a little bit
okay.
because there's a whole mass of society that is happily, ignorantly eating food that they think is perfectly healthy, and it's
Yeah.
slowly killing them.
Yes.
So I think there's a huge point to what you're saying. It's important to be conscious of what you're eating and to cultivate a positive attitude about what you're eating, and that plays a role in your health. At the same time, there are, scientific biochemical realities
Oh,
that,
for sure.
if you're eating crap, you're going to get crappy results.
I'm not saying go to McDonald's and say, oh, this is such a loving thing that I'm doing. You know, but
some people do that, Gitte.
Yeah.
Some people.
That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying that the energy, the intention behind everything you do matters.
Yeah.
And for me, it's either it's in alignment with love or it's in alignment with fear. And I do believe that I'll get there faster the more I can get into alignment with love. And that's why for me, it wasn't the right choice to go 100% raw, even though I know intellectually that it's the best diet in the world. So that it's just the energy behind it is very, very important. It's this loving. So, and it also depends on what your issue is, because my issue has been pushing myself. My issue has just been not a lot of people, they have a hard time motivating themselves. I have a hard time stopping myself. So we all have different kinds of, I'm the one who doesn't leave the party when it's time to go.
It's funny you say that. It's the flip side of the coin.
Yes.
They're both ego based. It's both ego based,
Very much so. Very much. It's about getting out of this ego. And I'm not even trying to get rid of the ego, because we have this ego. We are on this earth, and as you're saying, Paul, we can't just dismiss physical law. I mean, yes, you're going to be healthier eating fruits and vegetables than eating fast food and processed crap. Of course you are.
Right.
So, but it's just but I do believe the intention behind everything is very, very important.
Yeah, and it's hard to quantify these things, and it's hard to define them concretely. But I think it's people know in their hearts that what you're saying is true. It becomes experientially verifiable by simply being conscious of what you're eating. And you could say, one aspect of consciousness is knowing, what are the consequences associated with the food that you're eating. If you, like we were talking about the animal ethics earlier, if you begin to become aware of the things that go on within the animal production industry, it's hard to have a loving attitude while you're eating that stuff, because I
don't think it can be done. I mean, I don't think that you can have a loving attitude eating meat if you really know. If you have watched Earthlings and not looked away and really listened and watched it, I don't believe that you can do that.
Exactly.
Unless you are very ignorant and,
Right. And to me, that's an expression of love. It's like your consciousness raises, and you can no longer participate in an action that's harmful to a sentient being.
Yes. But also, again, Paul, I don't want to blame people, because when you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
I didn't know for many years either. So
Same here.
I'm not better than anyone else. Right. I just got into this. The migraine is an excellent teacher, and it has been an excellent teacher. So it might be the best teacher I've ever had, because without the migraine, I probably would never, ever have gone vegan. I wouldn't have been writing books and sharing and all the stuff that I'm doing today, which really fills my life with so much joy. I would never have discovered that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
There's always...
what I want to do, if you're willing, I'm going to make this segment part 1, and we're going to do another part 2 if you're willing to do that. All right?
Definitely.
Because there's another variety of questions I want to ask you. But But for right now, I've got to head out, and I think you may have to head out.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna pick up my daughter now. So,
yeah,
but before we go, Cole, I would just like to end by saying that you and I we talked just very impulsive the other day. We found each other online, and I would love if that could happen in the vegan community. That we can have more like you and I are gonna find out how to use this Google Hangout.
right.
I really believe that if more of us could come together and have not even interviews, because I also want to hear about but more conversations about a subject.
Yes.
Tim Van Orden and I, we are going to start doing that as well, where we just take like maybe one podcast we have listened to, or a book, or something, or a subject, and we talked about that as a conversation. I do
Yeah.
believe that that would be great to have more on that on YouTube.
I think it's great, Gitte. I think it's great. And you would probably, are you familiar with the D-Man? Have you seen some of the D-Man's videos?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does some of that. He does some of that format with some of his friends, and I think you're right on. I think it's great stuff.
Yeah, it's fun to be a fly on the wall and just listen in, and people, they can participate. And when we find out all the technical stuff with the Google Plus, then maybe more people can join in.
Oh yeah, we can have multiple groups. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're going to be the critical mass. It says that the critical mass is like 11%. It only takes 11% of a population to change the whole.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
I am positive. Like, there's a long way to go. My own husband is not even vegan, so it's difficult to change people. That's not what I'm into do, but I'm into.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about your family, and we're gonna cover that.
Great. So, okay, but thank you for this time, Paul. I'm looking forward to talking to you again, and I'll go and get my daughter now.
Thank you, Gitte. Pleasure.
Okay, bye.